Cian, are we going to fight?
Are you for the low blows madness?
Have we started or is the intro?
Yeah, it's on. The
It's a
intro's
show
playing.
where you
I know, wait.
control what's on the agenda. Ask us anything and we're blood-bound to answer. Starring Rick Nash, Corporate King, and the Queen.
I'm actually
of
kinda
Irish
excited for
wrestling,
this.
Katie Hearn.
I know you've been gunning for this.
Low blow.
Cian, go wild.
Yeah, so, are we, is it done?
Yeah, yeah, good.
Low Blows is cancelled this week. We're still calling it Low Blows, but Rick wants to talk about politics. And I know this is like an audio form, so you can't see us, but Rick is basically wearing a blue t-shirt that just says, I heart Fine Gael on it, in big, fat Comic Sans, and a picture of Leo Varadkar's face in the back of it that's stretched out because it didn't actually fit the dimensions of the shirt. So it's just stretched out awkwardly across his back.
It's like the Simpsons thing where it's like, who is it? Apu, is it? Where
What?
it's like vote for it and it's the no.
Sorry,
yeah.
sorry.
Some people get it. Joe Stodge gets that.
Shout out to Joe Stodge. Yeah, so...
Joe Stodge sounds like a politician, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Vote Joe Stodge.
Look
What-
at that
what party is
deflecting
he?
already now.
Yeah, I know, shocking. Do you know, this is actually the one podcast in Low Blow's history where I might actually get on better with Katey than Rick. You were actually listening to Low Blow's history being made until Katey comes out halfway through as like a massive fascist or something. That'd be really funny, actually.
I'm not a fascist, there's a disclaimer.
Well, we'll find out by the end of the episode. That's when we learn about ourselves. That's
One
the
of
point.
us is a fascist, but you won't find out who until the finale.
But,
That actually sounds like a really good, interesting show.
Like Blind Date, but with fascists instead.
no, or even better, if none of the people on the show are fascists, but they think there's one among them.
Yeah, it's just creating paranoia. Oh, man, this is way better than Prime Time.
Much like fascism. Oh, this is amazing.
Oh, deep, man.
So yeah, I've done no homework for this. So Rick's gonna hit me with his Tory tan opinions. I'm gonna have no answer to them, and he's gonna look mad smart in comparison. But it's only because he's arguing with me on this. You know what I mean? So that's a disclaimer. Besides that, I don't really know what else I have to say. I'm not really adult enough to host this show. I don't know what's happening, so I'm just gonna hand it over to Rick. God save us fucking all.
What makes you think that I'm a Tory? Like,
Your Twitter state of it.
no, but like, what makes you think that means that I'm like you realise that I've never put like even a number beside a Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael candidate ever. Not in a presidential election, not in a general election, not ever, not once,
Right.
not once.
So, what, am I allowed to ask who you're voting for, or is that a private?
No, you can.
Who are you voting for?
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. No, we will. No, the logic behind this show was genuinely because, like, a lot of what you're seeing on Twitter is like, oh, they're all fucking terrible. I don't know who to vote for. So there's a very good poll that was released during the week. IStandWith, and we're gonna have a general conversation. But I wanted to talk. What makes it good is it's not based on party allegiance, because this what you're doing. No offense, is what I hate. Where it's like I'm just gonna pick a side and I'm gonna stick with the side and I'm gonna agree with everything the side says. Whereas what's interesting about the I Stand With poll is that it's based around specifically the issues and who you care about, and it tells you who you want to vote for. Now, in cases like Corporate Keen, sometimes the results aren't surprising. But there are other cases where it can be too, because it's like people like might think that they feel one way, but then they can realize that when they actually get into the issues and what they care about and how they feel about it, they go a completely different way. So I encourage everyone to do it, but also as well, because the election is tomorrow, if you're still undecided, if you're still on the fence, or if you're still there for the taking, then
tomorrow?
Yeah, Saturday.
Oh.
Wait, hang on. Shit, Saturday?
Yeah.
We have to vote on Saturday.
Okay, right. This is a politics
I
podcast.
thought it was
You
on
know
Friday.
The day of the election.
I thought it was on Friday. I'm going to have to get back to Bray for a Saturday.
It's really, yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
Didn't think that one through.
It's historic, like it's all over the news.
It's the show how we
Saturday.
robbed all the primary school kids of a day off. If I was in primary school right now, I'd be raging.
I think that's why I thought it was on Friday.
But also as well, I think that was kind of the logic behind it, because it is awkward to get there during a work day. Like, you have to accommodate like your working hours and whatnot.
Yeah, but
like,
Saturday is my work day.
like, but like Leo Varadkar is like, I know it's Kenny Hermie's working day.
Who the fuck is that? What is that
I didn't
person?
prepare a Leo Varadkar, okay? But the point is that, like, you know, we're going to talk through some of our issues and how we feel about it, and like you may feel how Cian feels about it, and therefore at the end of it, we're going to do his not surprising at all I stand with results, or we're going to do Katey's, and you if you identify with her, maybe that'll help figure it out, or mine as well, and then like by the end of it, or at least through hearing the issues talked about, it may work through some things in your own head. But guys, to get kicked off, like, where was kind of your head at, just to put it in perspective, before kind of the election campaign started, when it was just announced, like, where did you side straight away? We'll start with the least surprising person.
You, Sinn Féin. Wait. Just all, like, you know, Sinn Féin, Social Democrats, Paul Murphy, the beautiful bald man. I'm going to vote him in for a laugh as well. Basically, yeah, just, you know, something different.
And what is it that spoke to you about that?
Well, Fine Gael have us in like that housing crisis, yeah. Fianna Fáil, you know, you've got the this is before I did the survey, I suppose. So like, Fianna Fáil, I didn't really know that much about them in all honesty, other than the recession and stuff. But what is it? I know a lot of them are kind of like, you know, pro-lifers and stuff. And I'm kind of like, I know that's not really that important now that it's past, but I think it says a lot about them as kind of people in a way. Yeah. And I was kind of, so I didn't really feel like they were kind of my gang, you know what I mean? Yeah. So Sinn Féin for me was if we want to change, that felt like our best chance at it. So I was going with Sinn Féin, Social Democrats. I didn't really know. Before I did this survey, it's kind of hard to go back because I did this ages ago. I did this last year as well. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't really know. Just left-wing parties, I suppose.
Okay. You're looking for a left-leaning government, obviously.
Yeah.
The more left, the better for you.
Yeah,
great. Katey, Harry, where was your kind of, at the start of this campaign, like, where were you? Were you firmly in one camp, or were you completely undecided, or what? Where was your head at?
I've always voted independent. Okay. I've never really felt an affiliation.
Right, David Starr.
I've never really felt an affiliation to a party, because in my head, I'm a very all-or-nothing person, and with every party, there could have been lots I agreed with, but there'd always be a few nuggets I disagreed with. Yeah. I've had to realise this time around that if we want proper change, I probably have to reset that thinking a little bit, because yes, I can vote for independence, but if they don't have anyone to form coalitions with, it's not going to make a change. So for me, it's been about looking at the parties and seeing which ones I identify most with. But generally, it's independence for me, and it's sometimes, a lot of the time, it's candidates that I've met or I've seen do things, you know. Whereas this is probably the first time I'm looking at it more party-wise than individual-wise.
Yeah, I get it. And it's tough as well, because there are... Now, to me, I'd say that independent votes aren't a wasted vote. To me, like, again, for reasons we'll cover it now. Like, for me, I feel that a vote for Sinn Féin is more like a wasted vote than... For me, I feel like it's just maths. It's not even a criticism of Sinn Féin, okay? It's just maths. They're running 42 candidates. The Dáil 160 seats, okay? If you want change, okay, Sinn Féin would have to win all of their votes, and they'd still need to coalesce with 38 other parties. The problem is Sinn Féin's rise is coming at the expense of other parties, and also the expense of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, which is a good thing, because I think, as far as the three of us goes, that's what we want. Believe it or not, it is also what I want.
Is it?
Yes, it is. Okay, so for my actual stances, and this has always been my stance, I've been consistent with this. I didn't just jump on board I didn't sneak in a vote for Fianna Fáil in 2007 because life was going good and I could buy a house. No, I didn't. I'm sorry. Like, you can, if you want to tell yourself that makes you feel better. Personally, I feel Fianna Fáil are exactly what's wrong with Ireland, where we like cute whores, we like people who are a bit of a bollocks, like people like Charlie Haughey and stuff like that, Bertie Ahern, that we knew were corrupt at the time, but we kept voting in because it works for it. They buy votes. They're the most dangerous types of politicians we can get. Fine Gael, I'm not necessarily angry or offended with. I'm suffering from the housing crisis. In a serious note, I've had to move back to my parents' home. Like, I've had to move back to my parents' home at 32. Here's the worst part. I work in a decent job. I have money that I could afford in any other era of my lifetime to live, to rent somewhere. But we're in a rental crisis, like, caused by Fine Gael simply ignoring it. So, no, I'm not a Fine Gael fan, because it's impacted my life in a very, very real manner. I have to live in a fucking single bed in the front room of my parents' house in a repurposed bedroom because I haven't lived there in years. But because of Fine Gael's governance, I've had to move back. So am I going to vote for Fine Gael again? No.
You well is.
No.
Cian, how many times have you voted?
Once. I thought it was in general election, but it wasn't. I was going in like, I'm going to make a difference, and I found out later on it was only a local election. So, I voted in the referendum, the abortion referendum.
There you go. The Sinn Féin for me are dangerous. Now, they were never before. I never had an issue with them. Like, Sinn Féin come to like their history, and people forget this, and the problem is there's a lot of cognitive dissonance going on here where people are playing both sides, where on one side they're like the exact excuse the Sinn Féin voters will use for not voting Fianna Fáil is never forget, they put this country where it is, we can't forget their history, and then it's like you literally started as Sinn Féin started in 1970 where they were a breakaway group, like them and the Workers' Party basically broke up to form two separate parties because the IRA voted that they didn't want they wanted to take extreme measures, and that's how Sinn Féin came to be. That's the start. They are the political arm of a terrorist group, and it's madness. And for me, this is why I compare them to Donald Trump, because I don't disagree with people following Sinn Féin. I didn't mind, if we're in peaceful times, I don't mind them having a seat at the table. I don't mind them having a say. We have to forgive old sins and stuff like that. But when we start voting them in, and when we start saying I want them as them, and they start winning opinion polls, that's when it's dangerous, because we're entering Donald Trump and Boris Johnson territory, where they're using the exact same tactics that worked for Donald Trump and Boris Johnson, where now this is standard fare for Sinn Féin, where they promise literally anything. And this has been always the way. Jerry Adams used to do the exact same thing. They take whatever the populist issue of the day and they say, I'm going to do that. And they make up pie in the sky numbers, 100,000 homes. And then it's you're not going to build that. And that's why your promises sound appealing to people, because they don't think about it. They're just I want 100,000 homes. And it's not they have no plans of doing that. They have no plans of running. Sinn Féin are a party that don't like power. They've helped dissolve the Northern Irish power sharing situation. They don't take their seats in Westminster. They have zero plans of being in power in the Irish government. They have no intentions of being so, and they make completely crazy false promises because they're trying to further another political agenda that they don't want to talk about, the 32 counties.
Yeah,
that's what they want. Yeah, and fair enough if you agree with that. I don't disagree with you being a Sinn Féin voter. I'm not trying to convince you to come over.
He's sticking up his middle finger at me right now as he's talking. You can't see it because it's an audio platform.
I'm doing a come with me gesture.
No, it's a middle finger. I can see it right there. He's he's mouthing "fuck you" over the microphone. I can see it.
I'm not trying to convince you to feel another way, but they are a dangerous. Because they just say things that are based on people's political ignorance. So they want to advocate for the rise of corporation tax. Okay, corporation tax is one of the main reasons Ireland's economy is in a somewhat stable position. Reason being, what's the sector that gains the most in Ireland? What's the sector that is booming in Ireland right now and is employing so many people? IT. Why is IT so high right now? Why does that employ so many people? Because we have multinational companies. We have the likes of Apple, we have eBay, we have big multinational companies that are employing thousands of people here. Why do they come to Ireland above other countries? Because we've got a low corporation tax rate. They get taxed lower. But the good thing is they're bringing in so much money that lower tax rate for them still means a fuckload of money for us. They're employing so many people that employment, those people have money. They then spend money. They bring in tax through VAT and so on. Our corporation tax, if you were to hire that and if you were to make it less competitive than the rest of the people in Europe, then that would mean that we'd lose a lot of jobs. We'd disincentivize these multinationals. They'd leave. Thousands of people would be out of work. We're back to 2008. It's so dangerous. And here's the thing. I know Sinn Féin know this. They're not stupid. I don't think they're stupid people. I think they're very wise and cunning people. I think they know this. They know what damage that will cause. But they think that the politically ignorant out there hear corporation tax and they think, well, why aren't we charging the big businesses more tax? Why are we lowering the tax rate? Not realizing the bigger picture, that it's actually really good for us. And then they stir this discontent and they stir the pot because they don't care about job losses cause people to commit suicide. People kill themselves because they lose their job and they can't feed their family. Sinn Féin don't care about that. They don't give a rat's. They don't care about the effects of what they promise because they've no intentions of actually fulfilling that promise. But they're fucking dangerous because they make they play on discontent. They use exact same tactics that Donald Trump and Boris Johnson use. They play on people's patriotism. Make America great again. Brexit. Get back to the real Britain. 32 counties. Let's get back to this. They play on people's patriotism. They play on, oh yeah, up the ra. Yeah, I fight for the flag. Tá mé go hanwa oscuelga. You know what I mean?
Do all the parties not do that? Like I'm going through and I see the posters of Fianna Fáil being like, "Oh, the Republican Party, we're the Republican Party,"
yeah,
and I'm seeing Fine Gael putting up signs off Gaeilge as if Leo Varadkar has a word of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't see how you can single out Sinn Féin for that. I think every party does that.
Because the problem is they can make outlandish claims where other parties can't because their claims aren't real. Their claims don't work. They're not real. They don't plan on. They've never shown any interest in having power. In any arm of Sinn Féin, where it's been the North, where it's been the UK, where it's been over here, they've never shown any interest in having power. They just want to make us right. And the problem is, here's one of the positives I think about this election campaign, believe it or not, okay? The problem is, and a good thing, a good side note of this is, young people are engaged. Do you know what I mean? Like one of the best parts about the marriage referendum and same-sex referendum is it engaged young people, and we saw a vibrant campaign. Even if it was a bit ugly at times, we saw vibrant campaigns. We saw people get active and so on. The problem is that and it's great to have that in a general election because then we get to the actual politics and the running of the country, and the young people are like, they're all shit, I don't care. You know what I mean? And then old people have the day again, and we get Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and so on back in power. That's why we have what we have. And it's great to have that. I would have loved, but the problem I think is, I would have loved to see the people that won those, that campaigned for those referendums, I'd love to see them create a political party. I'd love to see them actually politicize themselves and see what they could do because they know how to speak to the people of Ireland. You know what I mean? They speak for a large chunk of Ireland. Look at the success they've had. The problem is that's a lot of work. That's a lot of understanding. That's a lot of educating themselves and organising and so on. So I think everyone's got lazy and just assumed, well, Sinn Féin like the same things we liked, and they say a lot of things about the government. And here's another reason they compare it to Trump and Johnson. They play on people's discontent. They stir the pot. They literally just come in and they make whatever promises they have to make. In the same way Trump said, build a wall. He played on the ugly, toxic side of America to just get in at people's... people in America, I don't believe they're racist. I don't believe they're inherently all racist. I don't think 49% of the American public are viciously racist. Do you know what I mean? But they're disaffected with the system. And Sinn Féin just play on that thing. They just play on it and they say what they want to hear without any intention of running. The same way Donald Trump had no intention of actually winning the election for America. It was a publicity stunt. This is widely documented. They play on that and they just say whatever ugly words gets in people's ears, whether it makes sense or not, whether they care about the consequences or not, because they just care about furthering their own selfish agenda. They don't give a rat's. And here's the thing. Actually, if you're voting for Sinn Féin this Saturday, and you can, I'm not saying you can't, I'm not even trying to sway you here, I'm just saying my personal opinion. If you're voting for Sinn Féin this Saturday, it's the opposite of change. Here's the most likely thing that's going to happen. They have 42 seats. They are taking away from every other potential coalition partner. If you want a left-leaning government, well, here's what's going to happen. If they win 35 seats, okay, that's a really strong election performance for them. If Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael combine to hit 82, they're just going to go into a grand coalition. That's what I think is going to be the outcome of this. People are going to say, vote for anyone but Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and the exact government we're going to get is Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, because they will not go into coalition with Sinn Féin. They want it off the table, and Sinn Féin aren't going to budge on their promises because they don't want to go into government with them either. So that's what's going to happen. And then Sinn Féin get to be a powerful opposition for the next few years and continue to stir discontent.
Well, then who do you vote for then?
Who do you vote for? You vote for anyone else. Anyone else. Here's the thing.
They can't... How are they going to get into government?
Because they are legitimate coalition partners.
You mean so you want a coalition of them with either Fine Gael or Fianna Fáil?
This is the situation we're in, unfortunately. I don't want anything. I'm not voting for any of those parties.
Is it mathematically possible to have Sinn Féin, Social Democrats, but I don't know, the People for
Labour, People for
everyone else?
No.
Not even remotely possible?
No.
Not just not probable, but not possible.
Mathematically possible.
38 seats.
Yeah.
No.
Why not?
There's 159 seats. Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil probably are going to get 80. Sinn Féin are going to get 38.
But you're saying probably. I mean, let's just say hypothetically, Fianna. I know it's not possible,
118.
but if Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael got 0, right? Let's just hear me out. Is it possible?
Break it down, right? Well, no, here's the thing. Sinn Féin can only get a maximum of 42, so they need 38 minimum.
Yeah.
Okay? So let's be realistic here. Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, if they got 80 between them, that'd be a record low. If Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael got less than 50, got around 50% of the vote, which would be historic to see them drop that low, the two parties combined. Okay? How many votes does that leave? That leaves, say, 42 plus 80. That's 112. That's, what is it? 40, what is it? 112 from 159. Sorry, it's late. 47. Okay? So, like, if everyone combined and agreed on issues, it's not realistic.
But it could be.
Yeah, so it's possible.
No, it's not.
But it is possible.
Sinn Féin aren't going to win every seat they have. No party in the history of Ireland.
Well, they can if you vote for it, though.
But no party in the history of Ireland has ever done that. It's not realistic.
But they can if you vote for it, though.
Okay, but the realistic option is Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. Like, a vote for Sinn Féin is a vote also against the Social Democrats, also against the People for Profit, also against the Workers' Party.
So what you're saying is you'd settle for a Social Democrats in coalition with a Fianna Fáil?
Above a Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael government.
But in my opinion, I think Social Democrats, if they were in there with Fianna Fáil, would get chewed up and spat out, and then come the next election, they'll be on 0 again, and they wouldn't have any influence over Fianna Fáil in government. That's just what I feel.
Sinn Féin can't be in government. They didn't run enough candidates. They've no intention of being a senior partner in government.
I'm gonna go with the left wing coalition. That's still my pick.
It's not gonna.
But you're being realistic. You're going with what's probable.
Yeah, that's on. There's never been an argument against anything.
What's happened here is the youthful exuberance of his first general election against people who've seen it.
I might as well go with blind optimism. Fuck it. Why not?
Yeah, I know, but like also again, like the problem is it's going to come to crushing realism. Like, I'm not saying don't be optimistic, don't be hopeful. I'm not even saying don't vote for Sinn Féin. Please, nobody take it that way.
That's what I took from it.
But what I'm saying is be realistic about like who and what you're voting for. Like, when you're making your vote, it fucking matters. And if you're voting for a dangerous party who don't give a fuck, if you kill yourself because they take your jobs away, then yeah, that's fucking dangerous. People say, I want change. I want it to be different. Do you know what's fucking change? Let's name a fucking cat Taoiseach. Change for the sake of change isn't necessarily good. Do you think Donald Trump is a massive change from Barack Obama? Boris Johnson is a massive change from who they've had run at the UK before. Right. Even when you think of like Theresa May and whatnot, still a massive change. Do you think America and Britain, like every day, the normal average working person feels like they won? And when they voted, they registered their protest vote, they got the change that they were looking for? Do you think they're winners right now?
I don't know, I'm not British or American.
You look at Donald Trump, okay? You read out a story, the end of Slow Blows, like about Donald Trump like having to successfully avoid impeachment.
Oh, did he avoid it?
You read it.
Oh, he acquits him. I thought that meant he got impeached.
No. Acquits means that's yeah.
I thought he was acquitted from government. Like I thought they were like, no,
he's acquitted from impeachment.
No. Oh,
but like,
yeah. Oh, I thought it was breaking good news. I was like, hey, you know what I mean?
So that's where you're at.
But you're saying that you're basically saying that Trump and Boris going in a right wing change is the same as a left wing change.
It's not a right or left issue. It's not a right or it's a fanaticism issue. It's a case of people playing on the disaffected, people using their votes as protests and then making a bad choice. Like, again, you can't square this where you turn around and you say, look at Fianna Fáil's history, never forget. But Sinn Féin are literally a party formed by a terrorist cell. Forget about that history. Focus on this history. Do you want us to remember history or forget history? Like, what's the important part? People's arguments don't square, but they're in this blind rage because I agree with the disaffection. I feel it too. But they're in this blind rage with the system that they don't care. In the same way that when Donald Trump talks about, like, grab them by the pussy and this and that and the other, they're like, look, I don't care. I just need a change. Do you know what I mean?
No.
When Donald Trump said grab them by the pussy, like, on the week, when that was released the week of the American election, it didn't change that. People say that Sinn Féin, they're different now. They're different. They're not related to the IRA. Meanwhile, Mary Lou McDonald is defending they're like a person who's still in their party, running for election, trying to smear a murder victim of the IRA. That happened on Monday, by the way. She defended someone who tried to smear someone who was murdered by the IRA on Monday. That wasn't like in the past. That's this week. They aren't changed. They're the same party they've always been. Mary Lou McDonald, Sinn Féin can say they've changed when Mary Lou McDonald isn't around. When the party is led by someone who wasn't there when Gerry Adams was there. Mary Lou McDonald she's his protege. She's the person who sat on his lap politically for the years as he left power. And she was handpicked by the leadership of Sinn Féin to be in charge. How can you say that's changed? It's not changed. They're the same party they've always been.
Right.
But like, you don't care because you're disaffected. You want change, but you don't know what change is. Change isn't like, you can't just. There's no magic button that's gonna like build 100,000 houses. Sinn Féin won't. They can't.
But are Fine Gael or Fianna Fáil going to do that?
I don't think that kind of change, to play devil's advocate, is going to happen this election anyway.
Yes, I agree.
It's a slow process, but I think if the likes of the left-wing parties start winning more seats, more people will start thinking like, oh shit, well maybe next time let's run more candidates, let's put more votes that way, let's put more money into those campaigns. I don't think a lot's going to change this election, if I'm going to be honest. I think it'll pick up a lot more steam, and then by the time the next election rolls around, that's when we'll see the left wing.
So
change.
we should vote Sinn Féin.
Here's what's dangerous, and I agree. I agree with the logic behind that. But here's the risk. Okay, if you have a large majority in Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael Grand Coalition, which I genuinely think is what's going to happen, and I hate it, because I would have loved if we'd have had all the Sinn Féin votes go to the Social Democrats or the People Before Profit or the Workers' Party. They'd go into coalition and we'd have a genuine left-leaning government because they'd have a large coalition partnership. They wouldn't get swallowed up because they're not a massive minority. They'd have to get multiple ministries and be directly in charge of these people. But Sinn Féin can't do that because they won't. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael won't work with them. So they actually incentivise people coming in. But the problem is with this, and we've seen this happen with Sinn Féin before when they've got large gains. Sinn Féin won't. They'll have a lot of seats in the Dáil, but they'll be massively outvoted on every issue by Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. That actually, it's not like the Rugby World Cup where you make gains in one World Cup, but really you're looking 4 years away. It's a case of people will lose belief in Sinn Féin as an agent of change, because they won't be able to affect anything. If they have a minority in opposition to the point where they can't vote out a budget, if they have a minority where they can't vote out, say, they can't call a confidence motion and they can't do anything about anything, people are going to say, well, that was a waste of vote. Sinn Féin did nothing. The country didn't change.
Yeah, no, I'm not voting Sinn Féin. I never have and I never will vote Sinn Féin. Yeah. So I'm talking about the other left-leaning parties. Yeah. They're the ones who need to gather steam.
Yeah.
Because I also believe Sinn Féin won't do anything in power. I also believe that a lot of their promises aren't deliverable, and they've said them because they know they won't have to follow through on them. And I think the difference between us here is with the terrorist stuff, even the association is enough for me to put off Sinn Féin, because I was around. I remember the Omagh bombings. Mm-hmm. I remember the terrorist acts happening, where there's a whole generation underneath us that's just something they read in a book. You know, they don't remember a teacher coming into the school and breaking the news to them. They don't remember going home and turning on the telly and seeing the 30 faces or whatever. So I'm not as staunchly against Sinn Féin as you are. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I definitely want the left-leaning ones to gather steam. It's not going to happen this election.
Two things on that, okay? So, first off, when I brought up, say, Omagh, people said, well, it's not like Gerry Adams detonated the bombs, you know what I mean? It was the provisional IRA and this and that. It's not Sinn Féin's fault. But also, as well, I imagine that's cognitive dissonance as well, where people are Sinn Féin are still tied to the IRA. So people will say, well, Sinn Féin had nothing to do with that. But also, as well, the same people would say, well, it is a big deal that Prince Andrew is friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Do you know what I mean? So it's associated to someone is bad on one part, but then if you're associated to someone that you like, it's grand. You know what I mean? Even if they did horrible acts. I also think as well, I read a book about Star Wars recently, and they put it in a great way where this explains the cognitive dissonance, where people are someone worked for the Empire, you know what I mean? But I knew the author was thinking of like the Nazi Party and parties like this when they were thinking of it, and it was like how they reasoned with. They were actually a good normal person, but how they reasoned with the crimes that they committed, and they're like they all seem so far away. They happen in a different lifetime in a different galaxy, and to be honest, the day-to-day reality that they experienced as they just did their job didn't seem like that. So they told themselves that it didn't happen, and they just forgot about it, and they just got on with life because it was easier to just believe what they believed. And I thought that was a beautiful way of putting it. And I never associated it with Sinn Féin until recently, until I've had these discussions with people where they're like, well, no, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But yeah, it does. It matters if you're friends with people, if you're associated with people who kill children, who kill 2 unborn children, who kill a 12-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old. Like, that matters. That's a sign of character, and it's not a change party. Again, if it was a person who wasn't connected to Gerry Adams or Martin McGuinness, fine, I could accept that, but it's a person who was handpicked as leader. But let's move. I think unless you got something to say, like we can let you back in, but we can move away from Sinn Féin for now.
This is so heavy. I'm
broken
way
down.
over my head, man.
Sorry,
but like I'm in the same boat as you. Like I don't feel educated enough to talk about these issues. I'm just saying like what my thoughts are on them initially, like, and even when we get into like actual like policies and what different parties promise, there's only certain sectors I'm interested in.
But I think that's the way we'll go with it. Lastly, I'll just let's have a go at Fine Gael. They haven't got enough shit. For me, the way I look at them personally, they're arrogant buffoons who just like wearing suits, who are totally like have a tunnel vision view of life and the world, and they just feel that everyone else who isn't in that tunnel vision should just like cop on and get a job or something like that, you know what I mean? And that's why that's what I hate about them. I'm not as offended about them as say Fianna Fáil or Sinn Féin, but like that doesn't make me a blue shirt. Like I said, I'm suffering from your own. Where do you guys stand on the outgoing government?
Bad.
Yeah,
kind of in the same boat. Like I'm very lucky at my living situation because my landlord is family. But otherwise, I wouldn't be able to afford to live where I live or do what I do. I'm probably never going to own a house in my lifetime, which is a sad thought, So yeah, that's the main thing for me.
I think Owen Murphy's a prick as well. I was in the Tenements Museum on Henrietta Street. Can't remember when, a few months ago, and it was fucking horrible. And he's essentially bringing back the tenements and saying you should be excited because you get to spend less money to live in a one by one box with 20 other people. It's gonna be great. And Leo Varadkar telling people, just ask your ma for money, to pay for it. You know what I mean? It's just, I hate everything about Fine Gael. I hate their social media campaign to try and be down with the kids. I don't know if you've seen it. Horrific.
It's cringe.
They don't understand how it works. I hate them as people. And I'll never vote them in. Like,
do you know people are living in shipping containers around Dublin now? Like, they're actually like buying shipping containers and building tiny, tiny houses in them. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, I just, there's a lot I don't agree with, and like things like immigration, I have strong feelings on because like, I have friends who've lived in Ireland for 10 years and they pay taxes here, but they're not allowed to vote in these elections. They're not allowed to have a say. But so there's certain sectors I feel much more strongly about than others, which clouds my thoughts and all this.
Let's get to that then. So let's look at. So I've written down like some kind of highlights from the IStandWith question
that we haven't even got near yet.
But no, we're not going to get into it. We're not going to get into it. Do the poll. We've all done the poll. We'll get to our results at the end. Okay. So like we'll get to and we'll ease up. Don't worry, Corporate King. We won't get as heavy. Okay. So like we'll ease up a little bit as well. And like when you look at these, what are the issues that grab you and why when you're looking at them? Say like for the questions that we have in the doc there. Like for example, you were talking about like immigrants who should be able to vote as well. That's one of your big issues.
Yeah, that's a massive thing for me because like as I said, I employ people. I'm a manager in my day job, and I have lots and lots of friends who aren't Irish, who aren't even European, and like it sucks that they stay here, they pay taxes, they're great citizens, they hold down jobs, they contribute to society, but they can't vote. Or they're not entitled to the same benefits as an Irish person, or it's really hard for them to get citizenship even though they've contributed so much to the country. So like stuff like that really that's a big area for me. The environment's a big area for me. and education's a big area for me. They're kind of my three main things that I look at now.
Okay, so Corporate Keen, where would kind of your big issues be in terms of like what you kind of where you kind of stand on?
It's a bit random, but
no, that's good. I think everyone is though.
Military neutrality.
Okay.
Huge into that. And it's always talk about an EU army and stuff. I'm dead against that.
Yeah. I'd do the same.
Government regulation of social media, I'm dead against 100%. And that's a big one for me. It's like like that's what, like, for example, I'll be looking at Labour. I'm like, oh yeah, Labour, I'm agreeing with them on a lot, with certain things, and they'll be like, we want to regulate social media. I'm like, you're out. No, and then, I was like, give them a fourth preference. No. United Ireland is something I support.
Of course.
Legalisation of marijuana I support.
Yeah.
What else? I was looking at something there a second ago. Oh, let me find it. Lowering the voting age, I support.
Oh, interesting.
That's one I strongly support.
Because I mean, if you're when you think of a 16-year-old voting, you think of like Owen at the back of the class setting his table on fire with links. You want to let that prick vote? But I know so many adults. Like the average adult isn't informed enough to vote.
Yeah.
Like most people who vote shouldn't be voting because they've no idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
But a 16-year-old who's willing to vote, who's willing to actually go out of their way to register and go to the polls in their free time, when most of their 16-year-olds are thinking of wanking and playing Xbox. That to me shows that like I guarantee they are more informed than most adults, so they should be allowed to vote. And it's their future. Like when we look at the abortion referendum, I have a younger sister who was 17, I think, in the referendum, because I was 19, and she couldn't vote on that. But someone's granny who's going to die next year could vote on that. You know what I mean? So obviously you have to stop it somewhere, but I think 16-year-olds are a fair place to stop.
David Starr had a great point where he said if you're old enough to be tried as an adult for a crime, you should be old enough to vote.
Yeah.
So
what's that over here?
Well, like an adult is 18, but say if it's a really like heinous crime like murder and stuff, they can try you as an adult even if you're 15, 16, can't they?
Oh, okay.
So his argument was like, if you're old enough to do this, then you should be old enough to do that. Which, the comparison I think is good.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You look at the lads that won the Nobel Prize, was it recently? Oh no, they won the BT Young Scientist Prize. Did you see the two lads for their thing? Now, I know it became something else because...
Is this where all the lads in the comments and all were just
like,
there's virgins. Like, all right.
And also as well, like, they talked about gender, and then you got all of the gremlins popping up. It's like, you can't even tell what anyone is anymore.
Good one. Oh, God, that's such a good one.
Yeah, but you look at them, for example, like, what was they owned, what was it, Fianna Fáil senator on Twitter, who tried to meet them and get a publicity shot with them, and they're like, it was nice to meet you too. I was just very disappointed how apathetic you are about housing. And
yes, I do remember that. Yeah.
Those guys should vote, like.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're fantastic, like, so absolutely. Right, so let's get into some of the more interesting ones. For example, should there be more or less privatization of hospital or healthcare service?
No, so like, is this the NHS type question?
Yeah, well, we can get into healthcare and where we kind of feel.
I believe we should have an NHS type system. I think it's mad that if you don't have X amount of money, you just die. What sort of a system is that? I don't know. That's my stance on it.
That's a fair stance to have. Like, yeah, jeez.
Like, I've been very open. Like, when I broke my arms, I got great care from the Irish health system, but I also feel like I'm in the minority because not everyone has as positive a story as I do. Like, I had my operation on our system, and I had 6 months of rehab and checkups after that. I know a lot of people who've also slept in beds in the hallways, because there's not enough beds. So, like, I wouldn't be against privatisation if it meant that the people who could afford it went out of the hospitals and the beds were freed up for people who needed it.
Yeah.
They do need to put more money in it somehow. Is the main thing.
Like, I'm a big fan of, like, in Canada, healthcare is free.
Yeah.
Like, for me, it should be alright. Like, this is where this is why I kind of get offended at, like, I don't really, because I know it's like yourself or Justy saying it to me, and I know you're kind of ripping the piss, but like, this is where, like, it would bother me if I let it, because it's like, I actually, like, I want free healthcare. Do you know what I mean? I want that for everyone. Like, I'm not that way. Like, so that's where I'd like to be. And when you look at actually the studies of if it's economically viable, you find that a lot of the time it's just a case of getting your priorities. For me, I'm very anti-military spending. I think that should be one of the first things cut. Like, what the fuck do we need an army for? You know what? Like, I'm sorry, Lebanon, nothing against you, but like, there's a lot of other troops in bigger countries that are much better militarily resourced and stuff like that. It's just like, we need the money right now to look after ourselves. And then if we're flush again, if we get into a sustainable Celtic Tiger situation again, then we can look back into that. But like, you know, let's look out for ourselves on that kind of issue, and let's try and get a fucking working healthcare service for our own citizens before we start trying to save the world with a neutral military. Like, there's no point pouring money into that. And I have mates who are in the army who hate that view that I have, but like, if I let my mates decide my views, then what difference would it make? Here's another interesting health one. Should cities open drug safe havens where people who are addicted to illegal drugs can use them under supervision of medical professionals? Another interesting question I liked about this is, should people who fail a drug test be allowed to claim social welfare? So, like, on drugs and where we go, and also we can throw in the legalization of marijuana in there as well.
Yeah, yes to both of them. Of course, they should be able to claim social welfare, because you don't know if they're feeding their kids or not off that. It might not just go on drugs. They have other, like, they might have other things they need to spend it on. And I'm a big fan. Like, I like the idea of the safe havens as well, because the fact is Ireland has a massive drug problem, Dublin especially, and they're using either way. So at least if they're supervised, more people can be saved, and also it's a chance to educate those people, pump some money into rehab, pump some money into programs to get people off the drugs. They'll come to you to the safe havens, and then there's your chance to get them and to get them off the drugs. Because we do have a problem right now. So there's no point in saying like, oh, well, it'll just go away if we ignore it. It's not going to go away. Like, you just have to walk down the streets in Dublin to realise that.
Corporate King?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think she just nailed it, yeah.
Oh my God, it's the nicest thing he's ever said to me.
This is the show with Corporate King. This is the who thought that this show. I feel slightly different around this. Safe havens, totally agree. Like, and also get them off the streets, because then they're not a danger to people, and also then they don't have to deal and whatnot and stuff like that. I love my favourite series of The Wire is where they do Amsterdam and they legalise drugs for a series, and they kind of get into how would that actually affect the community, and then there's like, turns out it'd have a lot of positive elements, and it's a fictional show, but it's an interesting theory. So like, yeah, I'm a fan of that. I'm less of a fan of, here's where I think social welfare randomized testing would be a benefit. It's a deterrent. It's their money. It's cutting them off at the source.
It's not a deterrent, though. They'll just get it somewhere else. They'll steal. Yeah. They'll rob. They'll fleece people. If you're an addict, you find a way to get what you need. I don't think it's a deterrent at all.
I agree with that, but also I think it discourages working. You know what I mean? I think that's where I stand on it, because I think it like people aren't incentivized to work. They're incentivized. A lot of these people, I worked security on O'Connell Street for years. These people, it's their full-time job using. They come in at 9 o'clock in the day, they leave at 6 o'clock to go home for their dinner. Do you know what I mean?
But that's it, but they can't work. So if you're cutting off their social welfare, you're not forcing them into a job, you're forcing them into an earlier grave.
Here's the thing. Here's where I kind of separate on where I'm a bit more. I'm not as left wing on that. I am very much so in terms of safe havens and whatnot. If they're going to use, let's give them somewhere safe to use, clean needles, whatnot. Let's treat it as a health issue. But also I feel separately where it's a case of they made a choice. There is a choice in addiction. I've known addicts myself. I've suffered with certain addiction issues myself as well, and there's a choice in addiction. It is partly an illness, but there's also a choice in there, and it's a choice to help yourself. But
here's the thing. There's very little resources in Ireland to help yourself.
I agree, and should we I would pour more money into that.
But that's where the safe havens come in, and I don't think we should drug test people for their social welfare, but there should be more catching people at that stage and at the safe haven stage to get them into rehab. Like sometimes, and I'm going to lump alcoholism in with this as well, because I think, that also needs more funding and more education, because it's a massive problem Ireland has. It can take weeks or months to get an alcoholic or a drug addict into a rehab program. Yeah. And even then, a lot of the times they're private and the prices are extortionate.
They're crazy.
Yeah.
With that question about the social media, what? Social welfare.
I want to bring it back to the register.
I want to make my YouTube videos in peace.
Leave me alone, Labour.
Yeah, so that means if somebody say it's an alcoholic and spends all their money on drink, they pass it. But if somebody smokes like one bit of weed, then they fail and they lose all their money.
Well, I'd legalise weed.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's going to happen. It's a case of just we're waiting for the generation who's stopping it from happening to. I know I'm not going to say die out, but but like that. It's.
I'm waiting for them to die out.
The next generation of people. Yeah, I don't want my granny to die. But no, I'm only joking. That's who I think of though when I think that. But like, it's also like, it's literally a case of when this generation of people are in power, it'll be legal. Do you know what I mean? Like, so, but I think we should accept that and just be like, all right, yeah, look, it's literally in America now. It's fine. Let's just trust them. If not,
trust the Americans. Always a great motto.
Phenomenal game plan.
Right, so we'll look into further ones.
My favourite one is, should it be illegal to burn an Irish flag? It's not in the doc, but I find that really funny because it's like, how do you know if it's an Irish flag or an Ivory Coast flag? Surely they just
turn it around. It's like, carry on, good man.
I just wondered how many instances there's been that they felt that was a strong election issue.
Yeah,
like how many times has that happened recently?
You see it in videos on social media and it causes outrage, and then it's just it's done and you move on with your day.
I actually voted no for that though. I was like, no, you should not be allowed to burn a flag. But I actually don't know why I feel that strongly.
No, do you know what it reminds me of?
As well, yeah.
Do you know what it reminds me of? When I used to write articles for that website, like when I was 16, a wrestling website. And I wrote an article once about, it was like foreign wrestlers or something like that. And it was like, for the flag I used, I can't remember what it was, but I did it. The flag was America upside down, like in that flag. And the editor was American, and he was like, you can't use that flag, that's a disrespectful flag, that flag means this, that. I was like, alright man, Jesus. It's like, I feel like, I don't know, you shouldn't burn someone's flag, regardless, but...
It's rude.
Yeah, it's bad manners, isn't it? But
you shouldn't be put in jail for being rude.
Yeah.
I want the right to be rude.
It's a bit of a weird... to outlaw is a bit North Korea, in a way, even though you would like to beat someone up for doing it. But it's still illegal. I don't know.
I'm going to go with one that will probably be... Like, there's certain things that's just like... I like some of the questions in here because some of them are just rewording the question, are you a prick? So there's certain things I think we'll all agree on. Like, for example, like, should employers be required to pay men and women the same salary for the same job?
Yes. Yes, they should.
Okay, nobody's arguing, like.
No, I know, but the fact... And then, I went into the other options for this, right? You know what one I'm going to mention. And one of the others was... no, because the wage gap is a myth. And I was like, fucking hell.
But no party, because you can see the party's answers on this poll as well. That's what makes it interesting, question by question. And this is one of the reasons I have, a percentage of agreement with, the parties I don't like, because they all say the same thing for something like that, you know what I mean? They're all like, yeah. Whether they mean it or not, you don't know, but they all...
Ain't he done?
Yeah, Renew it. Fun fact, I got, I know we'll get to the results later, but Renew were taken off it this year. I don't know why, they just weren't there. But last year they were on it, and I got 34% with Renew it. That's very, very... if you disagree with a party, you'll still get around 70 or 60 something, you know what I mean? Yeah. 34. I don't even know, how that... they must have said no to that question or something
Yeah.
Here's another interesting question on the same mindset, though. Should businesses be required to have women on their board of directors?
I don't believe so.
I don't believe they should be obligated to have a certain amount of women. I think that you need to get to the core of who is most qualified for the job. Hopefully that is an even mix of men and women, because I think the problem is more deep-rooted in that women don't get the opportunity to rise to that level because of discrimination. Yeah. So I'm not a fan of quotas. You know, I don't believe that a more qualified man should lose his spot because they have to have a woman. The same with ethnicities and stuff. It should be the best people for the job, but all those people should have an equal opportunity to take the spot. So
would you believe in while there's an awkward transition and we do still have, say, the wage gap in place, do you believe in even quotas for interviews or something like that as kind of a stopgap, but let the most qualified person win?
Not necessarily, because for example, when I interview people for gym instructors, it skews very highly men.
Bit sexist.
It's not sexist. But if I get say 80% male applicants and I get 10 really good ones I want to interview. Yeah. And then I get 20% female applicants and there's only 3 good ones out of the 10. Yeah. The ratios are roughly the same, but it's I don't know. No, I think real equality is is looking at them all equally along the same criteria and picking who is most qualified to move on to the next round.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Like it could be all women or all men. It doesn't really. Again, it's about your ability to do the job. I'm kind of just reiterating what Katie said, so I'm just going to stop talking.
Only put that in because I thought we were going to have a bit of a row, but we all agree.
We're all not sexist.
Yeah, fair enough. Who knew?
Congratulations to us. Yay.
Should Ireland increase or decrease foreign aid spending? Now, here's the thing as well. Like, if you don't know how much it is, that's fine. But in terms of foreign aid, is that something? We'll rephrase this then. Is foreign aid something that you feel that Ireland should invest money in? Like, in terms of like, should we be supporting other countries or should we be looking after ourselves?
I think we should be supporting other countries because Ireland in the past has historically been supported. So
recent past.
Yeah. So
past
I think
10 years.
I think it's only fair. I just think it's the human thing to do as well. Of course, we should look after ourselves, but I do also think we should have provisions for other countries because at the end of the day, like, a lot of Irish people emigrate as well. We don't know where our own people have ended up across the world. Yeah. So I do think it's the human thing to do to invest in foreign aid.
Corporate Keane, this isn't one of your big...
No, I don't know.
Issues,
I don't know the economics behind it. So
everyone has different. Big issues.
It's not something I'd pull all together. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like we need to do it to some extent, I suppose. But
and look, we gave the world Live Aid, so I think that got us a bit of goodwill.
Yeah, I mean,
that was Bob Geldof and
that's right, and Bono.
There we go. That was a pretty big contribution to foreign aid.
Ireland, not racist.
I mean, they wrote "Do They Know It's Christmas Time?" It's still going, like.
Should there be a temporary ban on all immigration into Ireland? So this is more the Syrian refugee type argument. Is that something that, like, is that anyone? Does anyone feel?
I'm waiting for Katie to just be like, banned immigrants. No, she's not saying this. So I mean, no, I suppose we're all.
Oh, what a waste.
Are we probably going to agree on this again?
Yeah. I mean,
boring.
Yeah, that's very boring. Yeah.
This is the thing. Like, when you actually we row at the start of the show, but then
I didn't realize we all have the same.
I mean, I'm glad we're in agreement. I mean, I suppose that's the main thing. As funny as it would be if someone was to turn around and randomly, be like, I'm glad we agree.
Should politicians' wages be lowered?
I don't know what they're currently at.
So, do you think politicians should get like 6-figure sums and then designer pensions?
No.
You don't?
No.
Okay. This is something I knew we disagree on. Go on, Corporate Keane.
I remember you telling me last week what your opinion was on this. I think they should be low. Now, again, I don't know the economics behind this. So it's not
you don't have to get into the specifics.
But just in general, they should be lowered, I think, because if a politician's only in it for the money, they're not in it for the right reasons, they don't really care, they're probably not going to give a shit. That's just, I don't know.
Okay, so, like, here's something that I feel, and again, it's not necessarily, like, I don't know politicians, I don't care what they earn, but I want my politicians qualified. I don't want them being incentivized to go into the private sector. If I want the best of the best, so I don't mind paying for that.
But a lot of them aren't qualified.
I agree. Yeah, this is true. So I think we need to, personally, my own, and we were talking a bit about this last week. Personally, my own vision for what a government should look like is that the doll is filled with, like, that's for debating and voting purposes, voting on certain laws and this and that. For me, the way I'd love to have it is that you have your Taoiseach who's voted in, the leader of whatever party, and then the ministries are filled with people who are qualified in their field. So, like, even if it's not actual politicians, I'd prefer for ministers to be highly paid, but I'd also like them to be qualified. Yeah. I don't think the Minister for Agriculture should be the most culty guy who happens to be in the party, whether he was a farmer or not or understands agricultural issues. I don't think the Minister for Finance should be the guy when Fine Gael go out to have, like, a meal, is the guy who calculates who everyone pays, what everyone pays on the bill. I think it should be someone who works in economics and whatnot. So I want, like, ministers to be highly paid. I want my Taoiseach to be highly paid because I want them to be good at their job and not want to do other things. And unfortunately, money makes the world go around. Morals and wanting to do it for the right reasons only come into it. Like, and I get what you're saying, and I would have felt the same at a certain time, but they only come into it. It's kind of selfish to have morals at a certain stage because money is how you feed your family. So if you're, like, earning less and putting less food on your children's table and paying less money to their school and education and whatnot, then because of your morals, then you're being selfish and arrogant and only following what you feel is right. So, like, people follow money. They go. They're incentivized to go for it. I'd rather have a doctor go for to be Minister for Health and aim for that job than have them say I can earn twice the amount in private healthcare.
I get that, but I think my issue is they're allowed to claim so many expenses.
Yeah.
That on top of a massive wage, and then a lot of them are landlords and are still continuing on their other incomes on top of that. And then they're telling people, oh, a minimum wage is 10.10 or 10.70. What is it now? It went up
10,
again
10.
today. Yeah, 10.10. So the minimum wage is now 10.10, but the living wage is actually 12.70 or whatever it is. I think that's a bit rich. I think the gap is too big.
I agree with that. I agree with expenses. I agree with the likes of that. Even pensions, you know what I mean? And even being able to claim more than one pension. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And Kenny is able to claim a teacher's pension as well as a TSOC's pension. Do you know? That's fucking scandalous.
And most of them stop being politicians when they're young enough to still work. They're not even at retirement age.
Yeah. Agree.
So you want Dave McGoldrick to be the Minister of Tourism, Transport and Sport or whatever it is?
I'd be well up for that, yeah.
Oh, I love Dave McGoldrick.
You've sold me on that idea. But that'd be somewhere where maybe we disagree. Right, so look, we kind of disagree. We kind of agree on. Well, actually, here's another one. Are you in favour of decriminalising drug use as a whole?
No.
It's a tough one.
Hang on, if you legalise drugs, right? Does that mean then? Because remember that lad that got murdered in Drogheda a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying about like how the gangs rule because of the drugs.
Yeah.
So if you legalise the drugs, does that pull the rug out from under them?
Do you take the money away from the gangs? That's the argument for it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, but also as well, what drives it is the demand for it. So the point I was making in that particular post, though you're right to take that point from it because it's valid, was that like if you're supplying it, if you're funding this industry, you have a part to play. You have blood on your hands, whether you like to admit it or not. And a lot of people don't, because a lot of people do use drugs. You know what I mean? I'm probably alienating a few people saying this right now. But yeah, you're right. That would be the argument for decriminalising it. For me, I turn around and I say no. Like marijuana, absolutely should have been done 5 years ago. We're Ireland. We're old people vote. You know, maybe now with this, maybe this will be a positive of a younger vote now this time as well, that we can get more common sense issues, because the politicians will be like, okay, we need to keep the young people happy. Give them weed quick. Cocaine, heroin, no.
Now, like, that was an interesting Cian said, though, about, like, if we decriminalise it, are we taking out the criminal aspect of it? What if they do it like prostitution, where you can be prosecuted for using, but not for selling?
I'd go the other way.
You can be prosecuted for selling and not for using? It's
an interesting one, because it's like you could argue that the users are sick. They're addicts. They're suffering from an illness. The sellers are, so... Like if we're to compromise in the middle there, I'd personally skew the other way. So I haven't thought about that.
Yeah, no, it just popped into my head there when he's talking, because
I
like
might change my opinion.
That works for prostitution. Like, it keeps the girls safe.
Yeah.
But while not legalizing the entire thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, Class A drugs I would probably not decriminalise, just because of how dangerous they are.
Yeah.
You mentioned ecstasy. And I was thinking there, a lot of young people die from taking them at festivals and stuff like that, because they don't know what they're taking. They take it and they die. If you legalised it and say you could buy that sort of shit in a chemist or something like that with actual people who know what they're doing, know what they're making, know what they're selling, would that be safer?
Well, we've test subjects of this. So, like, for example, you have, like, the head shops that popped up. Well, you'll remember the head shops. Yeah, like, and we just had people zonked off their face on legal drugs that technically got around loopholes and stuff like that. And they had to quickly pass laws. Like, they couldn't pass the laws quickly enough. Yeah. They eventually just said, you're not allowed to have those kind of shops. Like, stop.
Yeah. I remember one opening in Bray, and Jesus, the circus for about 3 weeks, like, all the elements outside protested. It was gas.
Yeah, but that's kind of what you're getting then, that's the real look of decriminalising. There's a lot of fancy arguments for it, but I think you're opening up a door that you won't then be able to shut. So I think there's a softer approach. I don't know, I haven't fully made up my mind.
Yeah, I'm fairly neutral on it.
See, what I think would happen there is, like, they'd legalise it to make it safer, but I think the drug lords and the people who make the drugs would just make them cheaper and undercut the legal safe ones, because they're already in it. They're not just going, oh well, that's us out, you know what I mean? Like, I think they just find a way to continue on, and that would be by making it cheaper and probably more dangerous.
Yeah, this is true. Like, there's a lot there. We could probably do a whole show on it. Should repeat offenders be entitled to free legal aid?
I said for this one, not after 3 offences.
I'd say the exact same.
Yeah, because I do believe like people should have legal aid, but there comes a point where you're just a career criminal then, and clearly going to prison is not rehabbing you. Or maybe you haven't actually made it to prison because of the free legal aid and you need to go and actually just serve your time. It's one I hadn't really thought about before this quiz, though.
Yeah, okay. What do you think?
I have no opinion.
Okay, I do, because I worked in security, so I had to deal with criminals on a daily basis. A lot of them drug-addled and career criminals, indeed. So yeah, I went for 3 as well for the exact same reason. It's just like, no, it's an expense at this stage. Here's an interesting one though: should convicted criminals have the right to vote?
I think I said for this one after they've served their sentence.
Right.
Just because I kind of think if you're in prison, you've wronged society in some way, so that you're almost put on hold to learn your lesson.
Yeah.
And then it's like you're in the bowl corner, and then you're sent back out. Like if you're in the bowl corner, you're and your family brings home ice cream, you're not going to get ice cream.
Yeah.
Ice cream is the votes in this situation. Well, I don't know. Again, it's
ice
not
cream sounds way more fun than voting. I have to leave my house. I have to go to a school.
Yeah, it's not something again I've thought a whole lot about, but that's what I went for when I answered the question.
Yeah, I mean, like, because people when people think, oh, convicted criminal voting, they think like, a murderer is going to come out and vote for the pro-murder party, and murder is going to be legal or something. You know what I mean? There's only so much they can really do with that vote anyway. They're a citizen of the country. I feel like, especially if you're a convicted criminal who's completed your sentence and you want to play by the rules, and now that's a bit of a disincentive. You know what I mean? It's a bit of a, well, fuck you can't vote. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they should, but again, I'm not too strong on this, but I think they should.
You've kind of turned me there though a little bit. I was kind of like more, I was on the fence, but I was more along the lines of there's certain criteria, put in certain criteria, do you know what I mean, where like murderers, rapists, for violent crimes or something like that, maybe not. But also as well, you've kind of turned me a little bit by saying that it's, we've rehabilitated you. We've decided you're free to be able to live in society, so we shouldn't deny you your rights. So I do actually agree there. Another interesting one I saw is, should people have to pass a basic citizenship test? So this would sort of include like immigrants as well, I guess. Should people have to pass a basic knowledge test about Ireland to get the right to vote?
I think even Irish people should have to do that.
Yeah, but that's the point. Like everyone.
I think like people should know. Like we have a weird voting system.
Yeah.
I think every Irish person should be taught how to use it. Like a lot of people will throw away their numbered votes. Like they'll just number everything on the page, not realizing that that 7 or 8 that they give might actually get Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael.
My dad's nearly 60. Do you know what he said to me yesterday?
What?
That he was having an argument at work because he was saying that in order for your vote to not be spoiled, you have to label them 1 to 10 every single candidate. I'm like, no, you don't. And he was like, "Are you sure?" Like, yeah. Like the part, like, and he's like, but he's like reasonably informed. You know what I mean? And he's like, and he taught that. You know what I mean? After 60 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I think you need to learn about this sort of stuff.
How about this, right? Immigrants can vote. You can vote as young as you like. There's no age restriction on voting, but you have to pass this test. That's the restriction to it. So it's a basic test. It's not difficult. It's something that, like, we could, like, having had a conversation about this for over an hour now, we will get to the finish line soon, don't worry. Like, we'd be able to pass this test. Like, we know we'd be able to because we know enough about the country. It's basic history questions, basic, like, electoral questions and stuff like that, and you have to get a passing grade of, say, 60 or something like that. Then, yes. And you can vote whatever age you were, wherever you're from, whatever you've done. If you show enough interest in it, if you're educated enough, you can vote. Well, not even educated, because that persecutes, that discriminates against disadvantaged people. But if you've enough of an interest, if you're active enough, then it incentivizes an active, informed people. Because again, I think a large part of a lot of what happened with the Sinn Féin hysteria, we won't get back into it, don't worry. A lot of what happened with the Sinn Féin hysteria this week was based around people are like, they're going to get in because they're heading the polls, and like that's why I felt the need to come out on Twitter and go, they can't get in, they don't have the numbers, that's not how the system works. Same reason a lot of people thought like Hillary Clinton was going to get in because she was winning the polls in America, and it's like, that's not how the system works. She's not like diversifying it. She's really high in certain areas and she's not high at all in other areas, so Donald Trump can get votes in those areas, and that's how we end up getting elected with a minority. So understanding your electoral system is crucial, and I think it's something that we should all like strive to do.
Wait, I don't agree with passing the test anymore.
Because you're thinking of disadvantaged people?
Not democracy.
Okay.
What I think is maybe like, just, I don't know, like you have to like sit through like a 5-minute talk before you go in and vote. Maybe get people to vote in batches.
Yeah.
Your voting time is 3:00. So you go in, you sit through 5-10 minutes on how the voting process actually works, and then you go vote.
Okay. You may have. That's a nice. I like that suggestion.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of like not letting everyone vote, because that isn't democracy.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. Look, we can keep going. The last one I wanted to put in, okay, so we're going to forget about parties. We're going to just talk about qualities in general. What qualities are important to you when you're voting someone?
None. I don't.
I have no more.
As far as individual politicians are concerned, it's about policies. I don't care about. That's the question.
That's an answer.
What?
They're policies.
Oh.
That's an answer.
Oh, well then that one. I don't really. I ignore that question whenever I see it. There's too many answers. Like
intelligence, like to understand their policies, to understand the economics of what they're doing.
For me, it's common sense. That's what I look for in a candidate. I look for specifically like, have they got cop on? Because I think Leo Varadkar is a very intelligent, educated person. I don't think he has a lot of cop on. I don't think he sees the big picture. I don't think he empathizes. I don't think he's a bad person. I think he's just like, he's blinkered.
Tory.
No, but he's blinkered. He just doesn't understand the world outside of his own world. You know what I mean? But he's educated. He's clearly intelligent. But I think common sense and like empathy as well would be another one. Understanding the situation.
See that video they put out there like yesterday, where it's like people are earning as low as 36,000 a year. It's like as low.
I wish I got to that figure.
Right, guys, let's get to it. Corporate Keen. We'll start with the results for our votes. I have to find mine now. Corporate Keen, I think you'll be the least surprising, so we'll kick off with you.
Yeah, my top was Sinn Féin. I don't have my phone out. I'm not asking. Like, I know the number. I don't remember the numbers, right? But it was like Sinn Féin was top. Social Democrats were second, and Workers' Party were third. That was my top three, and my bottom two were Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael.
That's, the least surprising. Like we said, that very much covers
there it is, 92% Sinn Féin.
Were you proud of that?
Yeah, I was happy. It's down from last year. Last year was like 96 or 98 or something like that.
Yeah. It's one of those things, though. They say when you're young, you skew left, and as you get older, you skew right.
But you should always, if you're doing this survey, don't just look at your results. Look at the questions, question by question.
Yeah.
Like I got pretty high with Labour and the Green Party, but I looked through some of the questions, and it'd be like Labour want to bring in water charges, or Labour want to regulate social media, or something that for me is like, whoa, no, you know what I mean? So, just keep an eye out, you know what I mean? Maybe there could be a complete deal breaker in there you wouldn't even see.
It's a very good point. As well, though, like you can fill in your most important issues and stuff like that. So as well, if you fill that out, they weigh it up. So, Katie, do you have your results, Andy?
Yeah, I did the short version first, and I got 95% Sinn Féin. So I quickly redid it, and I went for the longer version.
Okay.
So I looked at the other options, and I filled in the most important ones.
Right.
And I got Social Democrats number one, 91%, and then Sinn Féin at 90%.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and then
Secret Shinner. Look at her in a green top.
And then it's for the Green Party, I swear. And then the Green Party, Workers' Party, and then at the end, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil.
Mine in last place, 80%, Fianna Fáil.
80%'s pretty high.
I'm very, very, very central. Like, I'm centrist. Because, like, a lot, like, I am, like, look, I'd be centre-right on a lot of economic issues. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm getting older, and as you get older, you're not like, give everyone money. It's like, do I want to spend my money on, like, I work hard for my money. So you do get that way as you get older. And if you don't believe me, I'll chat to you when you're 30 and 40. But 84% Fine Gael. They were second last. So they're literally like, you're calling me a Fine Gael supporter. They're my second last party.
Sorry.
And I've never voted for them. Sinn Féin 85. I was really happy with these results because the bottom three were people I've never put down on the ballot at all. I've never numbered them. Top four were Labour. 86%. I wouldn't vote for them again though. I've been burnt. I've been hurt before. The Green Party 86%. They're a party we haven't talked much about. I think they're in for a really strong election, and I think there's a good shout they're going to be in government. I think they need to be because they're the only ones really looking at the environmental issues and actually getting the government to respect it. The Department of Environment, if it's not green, we're all fucked. Social Democrats are probably going to be my number one. They're in at number two with 87%, and the Workers' Party 88% are my number one. I just don't have a Workers' Party in my constituency. I don't have a candidate.
Really?
Yeah, so it's...
You're in Dublin though, aren't you?
Dublin West. So I'm a Leo Varadkar.
Filthy.
I'm in Joan Burton's as well. I've had run-ins with both of them.
I'm in the constituency that locked Joan Burton in her car, which I thought was really funny.
I'm in Simon Harris's constituency.
Interesting. I hate Simon Harris.
Yeah. What I will say is, though, a lot of people protested on his house a couple of weeks ago while his wife and baby were inside.
No.
I didn't agree with that.
Not okay.
Yeah,
Not
didn't think that was okay.
How do you feel about all the fans burning Ed Woodward's house?
Whose house?
Oh, you don't know Ed Woodward? Well, how do you? No, because it's kind of a similar idea where it's like you have a problem with the person, but like they have a family and stuff in their house.
It's absolutely scummy.
Yeah, I'm not okay with it.
It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Like, if he canvassed at my door, I'd be like, Mr. Harris, I strongly disagree with a lot of your policies, but I wouldn't storm his house.
Let's finish this off with a story. So I've had run-ins with both Joan Burton and Leo Varadkar before. Joan Burton I interviewed for a radio show before. I was like, we have a young audience as well, so like, you know, I want to kind of get a simple kind of interview and stuff like that. It was the Nice Treaty, it was. And I wanted to, similar to this, I just like doing things where it's like we're going to explain the issues in a layman's terms for people to understand. So I think she was expecting a soft interview. She got me like in full Pat Kenny mode, like, where is the money, Joan? Where is the money? Where are the jobs? Where are you going to create the jobs? She... I don't know if I can tell this story off the air. Fuck it. Off the air, I got on the phone to her afterwards because it's a political interview. You still want to be cordial and professional. Afterwards, I got in the air. I'm like, John, thanks a million for that. She just said, "Oh, will you fuck off?" and hung up the phone on me. And Leo Varadkar, last story, okay? Just to prove I'm not a Tory, okay? Leo Varadkar, I was promoting a Blanchardstown show for Irish Whip Wrestling back in the day during it would have been 2005 election trail, okay? Leo Varadkar was at St. Mochd's School. Leo Varadkar was campaigning on the same day. And they pulled up around the same time as the kids were coming out of school. And then, like, so he's, like, trying to talk to the parents and, like, get their votes and stuff like that. I fucked his day over because I just came up beside him and I said, "Who wants to come to the wrestling show?" And the kids all went, "Yeah!" And then he's literally just looking at me like, "Dude," and I was like,
well, if we're done, will I do the outro?
Go for it.
Basically, first Survivor Series, whenever it's Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Rick always chooses SmackDown so he can wear the blue shirt. Bye.